Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she seen what she had done, she gave her father 41. A nice rhyme, right? But I'll warn you, the story isn't nearly as nice as the rhyme. This is the story of Lizzie Borden. Hi guys, welcome to True Crime Comment Quest, where we delve into the mysteries of true crime cases that you've requested not just on my channel, but other true crime YouTubers' comments as well, which may or may not have been overlooked. I have a little update for you guys. I have got a new camera. For those of you who don't know, my last camera was stolen by my cleaner. Yes, the lady that comes to clean my apartment for me, she stole my camera, and I have hereby been using my phone. And I kind of have gotten accustomed to my phone, but I got a new Sony A6400 camera. I just probably would have to learn how to use it, mount it on the teleprompter, hopefully if the ring key is available, and just learn how to use it so I could make better quality video content for you guys. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever get an editor, but if I'm going to get an editor, it's probably going to be in Nigeria. But anywho, let's dive right in. This case was requested under Belisarian's comment section by the name Lauren Lewis 1166, saying, "How about covering the Lizzie Borden case? It still fascinates me to this day." And boy oh boy, do I agree. So let's dive right in. Lizzie Andrew Borden was born on the 19th of July in 1860 in Fall River, Massachusetts, to Sarah Anthony Borden and Andrew Jackson Borden. Now let's talk about her dad, Andrew. He comes from a very wealthy family, but his parents struggled financially. So as a young man, life isn't exactly a walk in the park for him. But Andrew doesn't give up. He starts working as an underwriter at a local bank in Fall River. From there, he invests his earnings in real estate, furniture, and even runs several textile mills. Before long, he climbs the ranks and becomes a bank manager, the bank manager of the textile mills. Now, you think that with all this wealth, Andrew will be living the large life, spending, being, what you kind of expect people will do when they start getting a huge sum of money. But here's the thing, Andrew is known for his frugality. We are talking about bare bones living here. He buys a pretty basic house, nothing like what you would expect from the rich folks back in the 19th century. No lavish decorations or endless household servants, just these essentials, which was a common feature for the wealthy at the time. To Andrew, it was all about keeping it cheap and simple. Even when it comes to their food and furniture, he was still keeping it cheap and simple. But trust me, there's nothing basic about his bank account. I can tell you that. Sure, they lived in a nice neighborhood, but the wealthiest residents of Fall River, including Andrew's cousins, are residing in a more fashionable part of the town called The Hill, far from the industrial areas of the city. Andrew eventually meets Sarah and they get married. She has 3 children: Emma, Alice. Alice tragically passes away as an infant, and Lizzie. Sadly, Sarah dies when Lizzie is just 2 years old, and Emma was 12 at the time. She makes a promise to look after Lizzie like a mother, and boy, does she take this role seriously. 3 years later, Andrew remarries a woman named Abby Durfee, but Emma's disapproval is crystal clear. She never calls Abby mother and only addresses her by her first name. Lizzie grows close to Emma, who acts as a maternal figure while constantly reminding her of their late mother, which puts a strain on Lizzie's relationship with Abby. When asked about it, Lizzie describes her relationship as cordial. She's convinced Abby only married her father for his wealth. Their maid, Bridget, whom they call Maggie, testifies to the fact that Lizzie and Emma rarely ate meals with their parents. It was obvious that there was no love between them, and if there was any love, it is now lost. Now, Lizzie and Emma aren't thrilled with their lifestyle. They feel like with all the money that they have, well, that their dad has, they deserve way better. After all, their relatives live in The Hill, the posh neighborhood. So why are they stuck in a rented half duplex without electricity or running water in a working class neighborhood? It's not like they are even broke. Andrew's extreme frugality leaves Lizzie and Emma feeling isolated without a clear social standing. So the thing is, they don't fit in the working class, and the lack of funds to mingle with the upper class is also there. So they can't even enjoy a social life like other wealthy kids do, like hanging out at the local theater, because their father doesn't provide the money for social life. Oh my God. I can just imagine how exhausted and how, like, traumatized, not traumatized, but like, annoying it was. Now they're left dependent on church activities to fill their time, which Andrew probably sees as perfect. No cost, no problem for him. Andrew's stinginess even impacts their chances at marriage. With no dowry or independent means, Emma and Lizzie were considered spinsters at ages 42 and 32 respectively. With nothing else to occupy her, Lizzie immerses herself in church life. She teaches Sunday school, participates in women's charities, and gains a reputation as a pious woman. Outwardly, she's sweet and harmless, but there's an issue. Lizzie has a habit of stealing from local shops. Practically, she's a kleptomaniac. Yeah. Maybe she feels she's entitled to these things, being wealthy and all, but held back by her father's miserly ways. Now, let's get into the main story, her family dynamics, which was a bit unusual to say the least. Lizzie has a small flock of pigeons on the property. They are basically her pets. But one day, Andrew, ever the penny pincher, kills the pigeons with a hatchet. And why? To save on food costs. Yeah, he thinks those pigeons will make a decent meal. Lizzie is devastated. And this only adds to the growing tension in the family. Now, let's not forget that at this time too, Andrew has also been gifting real estate to members of Abby's family, his second wife. He even gives Abby's sister a house. Meanwhile, his own daughters, Lizzie and Emma, haven't received anything like that. This angers them so much that they demand their own property, the house that they lived in with their mother before she died. They end up selling it back to him later at a higher price. Guess they learned a thing or two from their father. To add to this already strained atmosphere, suddenly the entire household feels violently ill. Abby fears it's food poisoning. Andrew isn't exactly well liked in Fall River, but the doctor dismisses it as just typical 19th century food poisoning, probably from spoiled cheese or spoiled meat. There was no refrigerator back then, so this was quite common to have food poisoning. On the 3rd of August in 1892, Andrew's brother-in-law, John Morse, arrived unannounced. No luggage, just him. He shows up out of the blue. And I'm wondering, did he plan on wearing one of Lizzie's dresses while he was there? I mean, how do you just come to someone's house unannounced with nothing? This surprise visit doesn't sit well with Lizzie. She feels uneasy around him. But the next day, August 4th, the family's maid Bridget prepares breakfast for Andrew, Abby, and John, even though she's still feeling sick because she's also affected by the food poison that for some reason was just going around the house. Around 8:48 a.m., John leaves to run errands and visit his niece and plans to return in time for lunch. Andrew heads out for a morning walk shortly after, leaving the house around 9 a.m. Abby, meanwhile, goes downstairs to clean the guest room, a chore usually left to Lizzie and Emma, but she just does it anyways. Lizzie is downstairs ironing in the dining room. So far, a pretty typical morning, right? Everyone going about their day, still a bit under the weather, but nothing unusual until things take a very dark turn. There's a killer in the house. As Abby makes the bed in the guest room, she is attacked out of nowhere. Struck on the side of the head with a hatchet, she falls face down, but it doesn't stop there. The killer strikes her 17 more times, right at the back of her head. And nobody else in the house has a clue what's happening. Around 10:30 a.m., Andrew returns from his walk, still feeling unwell and ready to rest. Kind of convenient timing for the killer, right? You can't help but question, was it really just food poisoning after all, or was everything just perfectly planned? Andrew tries to unlock the front door with his key but can't get in, so he knocks, and Bridget comes down to let him in. She struggles with the jammed door and even mutters a curse under her breath. In that tense moment, she hears a laugh from the top of the stairs, and it's Lizzie's laugh. Now, here's the thing. Abby's body is upstairs, visible to anyone on the second floor. Yet, Later, Lizzie denies being upstairs, claiming her father asked where Abby was, and she told him Abby had gone to visit a sick friend. Suspicious, right? Bridget helps Andrew get comfortable by taking off his boots and putting on slippers for him. Then goes upstairs to the third floor room to rest, still feeling sick herself. Just before 11:10 a.m., Lizzie yells, "Maggie, come quick! Father's dead! Somebody came in and killed him." Bridget rushes downstairs and the scene is horrifying. Very, very horrifying. Andrew is slumped on the sitting room couch, his face brutally attacked with a hatchet, and he was hit 10 or 11 times. One of his eyes is split clean into two, suggesting he was probably asleep when the killer struck. The fresh wounds imply the attack happened only moments before, but here's the twist: he was still wearing his boots. Bridget swore that she took them off. So how were they back on his feet? Is Bridget telling the truth? Like, the maid said she removed his boots and he went to sleep on the couch. So if he was murdered, how are the boots still back on? Lizzie asks Bridget to call the neighbor, Mrs. Churchill, for help, and the family physician, Dr. Bowen. Dr. Bowen rushes over from across the street on hearing what happened. He takes one look and declares both Andrew and Abby dead, estimating Andrew's death around 11 a.m. So the question is, what exactly happened here? Two brutal murders and only a few people in the house. Who had the motive and who had the chance? The police arrive and Emma, away visiting friends, Lizzie and Bridget are the prime suspect. And get this, when the police question Lizzie, her story keeps changing, much like she's trying on different outfits. At first, she says she heard some kind of groan or scraping noise before entering the house. But then, just like that, she switches it up and says she didn't hear anything unusual, which is very weird. When asked about her stepmother, Lizzie says Abby got a note to visit a sick friend. But later, she casually suggests Abby might still be around and asks if someone can go upstairs to check. So that was when the neighbor, Mrs. Churchill, and Bridget go halfway up the stairs and find Abby's body lying face down in the guest room. Meanwhile, Lizzie is acting way too calm, almost like she's reading from a script. The officers aren't buying it. They actually describe her as too calm and poised. But despite her odd behavior and constantly changing alibis, no one checks her for bloodstains. And get this, they barely even searched her room, saying they didn't want to bother her because she wasn't feeling well. Well, how nice of them to think about Lizzie's health when two brutal murders had just occurred. Talk about a botched ass investigation. Then in the basement, the police find a collection of hatchets and axes, including one with a broken handle and a dusting of ash. It's like they found their murder weapon, but they just leave it there. And remember how the whole family had been sick? They actually tested the milk and the stomach contents of the victims for poison, but nothing was found. But that's when the rumor started to spread. Apparently, Lizzie tried to buy hydrocyanic acid, a poison, from a local druggist a day before, though her request was denied. She claimed she needed it to clean her furs, though it had no antiseptic properties. So, what exactly was it meant to clean? And the police, they dismissed this bit of information as unrelated. But think about it. Could it be that Lizzie had considered poisoning her family before resorting to violence? I mean, some of the police officers had this thought too. Alice Russell, a friend of Lizzie, stays over to comfort her while her uncle John sleeps in the attic. Police stationed around the house on the night of August 4th, reporting seeing Lizzie in the cellar with a lamp and slop pail. An officer further explains that he spotted her bending over the sink in the cellar but can't see what she's doing because that isn't suspicious at all. Finally, on the 6th of August, the police finally got serious and conduct a thorough search and seizing the broken handled hatchet. That evening, a police officer and the mayor visit and drop a bombshell. Lizzie is now the prime suspect of the murders. The next morning, Alice finds Lizzie ripping up a dress in the kitchen. Lizzie says it was stained with paint and was planning to burn it. But here's the thing, no one can confirm if that's the dress that she wore on the day of the murders. The inquest hearing for Lizzie is scheduled for the 8th of August, and she's requested her family's attorney. But due to a state statute requiring private inquests, she's denied. Before the hearing begins, they give Lizzie morphine to calm her nerves, which might influence everything that follows. Lizzie's testimony was all over the place. She refuses to answer even her basic questions, contradicting herself constantly. One minute, she says she was reading in the kitchen. The next, she's in the dining room ironing, and somehow she's suddenly coming downstairs. The district attorney pushes her hard, but with that morphine coursing through her system, Lizzie's behavior keeps slipping further into erratic territory. Finally, on the 11th of August, they arrest her. And here's where things go wild. Her inquest testimony, loaded with contradiction and strange behavior, is ruled inadmissible in her 1893 trial. By now, the case has nationwide press coverage, sparking chaos all around the world. Even friends who once supported her innocence are starting to have doubts. On the 7th of November, a grand jury began reviewing evidence in the Borden murders, and by December 2nd, Lizzie was formally indicted. Her presence at home at the time of the murders were disputed during the trial. A few witnesses are called up to testify, and it begins with Bridget. Bridget testifies that she went upstairs at 10:58 a.m., leaving Lizzie and her father Andrew downstairs. Lizzie, however, claimed that she had gone to the barn during that time, staying there for 20 minutes or possibly a half an hour. In support of her account, Hyman Lubisky, a defense witness, swears he saw Lizzie leaving the barn at 11:03 a.m., a statement which was backed up by Charles Gardner. By 11:10 a.m., Lizzie calls Bridget downstairs, saying that Andrew had been murdered. The trial moves fast, lasting just 3 weeks, from June 5th to June 20th, 1893. During the trial, the judge dismisses critical evidence, especially the testimony that Lizzie had attempted to purchase prussic acid the day before the murders, ruling it irrelevant to how the murders actually occurred. Lizzie's defense zeroes in on the lack of physical evidence linking to her crime. They argue, how could she commit such brutal acts without a single blood stain? After just an hour and a half of deliberation, the jury, which consists of only men as typical in the 19th century, returns with a verdict. They find it difficult to believe that a Sunday school teacher was capable of such violent acts, ultimately leading to her acquittal. After a year of dominating headlines, Lizzie walks out of court telling reporters she's the happiest woman in the world. But the public doesn't buy it. Lizzie may be acquitted, but in their eyes, she's still the prime suspect. After the trial, Lizzie and her sister Emma move into a grand new home in Four Rivers, Elite Hill neighborhood, which is exactly where they had been wanting to live ever since they were telling their dad to get them a home. Lizzie calls it Maplecroft, trying to leave her past behind. She goes with Elizabeth A. Borden and lives a luxury funded with her inheritance, a settlement from Abby's family. The sisters hire living maids, a housekeeper, and a coachman, finally able to enjoy all the perks of being wealthy. Yet, despite the acquittal, Lizzie is far from accepted. Four River residents treat her like an outcast, and children sing mocking crimes about her alleged crime, which is what I wonder if it was the crime or rhyme that was in the beginning of this video. But anyways, in 1897, her reputation takes another hit when she's accused of shoplifting in Providence, Rhode Island, feeding more local rumors. In 1905, tensions between the sisters reach a breaking point after Lizzie hosts a party for actress Nance O'Neill, with whom she's close. Emma disapproves of Lizzie's new social circle, and after a heated argument, she moves out of Maplecroft, never seeing her sister again. On the 1st of June 1927, at age 66, Lizzie succumbed to pneumonia. Just days later, Emma also passes away, quietly ending the tragic legacy of the Borden sisters. But this case still begs the question, what motive did Lizzie have to kill her parents? Could it have been related to her rumored affair with the maid, Bridget? In her later years, whispers circulate that Lizzie was actually a lesbian, and Abby reacted with disgust when she caught them, leading to Abby's murder. Lizzie also confessed to Andrew upon his return, but when he reacted exactly like Abby, she killed him in a fit of rage with a hatchet. While Lizzie faced such rumors, there was no speculation about Bridget, who later married a man she met while working as a maid. So these theories remain inconclusive. What really happened then? Since the courts proclaimed Lizzie innocent, who killed Mr. and Mrs. Borden? Who do you think actually did so? Had they been looking at the wrong person all along while the real killer was still out there. Let's consider our dear Uncle John. He makes an unexpected visit despite rarely seeing the family after his sister's death. He sleeps in the house the night before the murders, and law enforcement notes that he provided an absurdly perfect alibi for the murders. Almost too perfect, if you ask me. And let's not overlook Emma. Though she claims to be in Fairhaven, about 50 miles from Fall River, it isn't impossible that she secretly visited the residence to kill her parents before returning in time to receive the telegram informing her of the murders of her parents. Who then killed Mr. and Mrs. Borden? Could it actually have been Lizzie, or our Uncle John, or the innocent Emma? The truth remains a mystery till today. And to me, I personally think that it would have been so stupid of the uncle to do so because he came basically with nothing. So he would have been the first prime suspect and you came unannounced. Um, all fingers are honestly pointing to Lizzie, but we'll never know because she was found innocent. And I just want to know what you guys think. Who do you think actually killed the Burdens? And let me know your reason why you think it's that person. Do you think it could even just be a stranger? Like, because, uh, since Mr. Borden was quite rich, it could have been someone that he probably annoyed, a business partner. Could have been, if I don't know, it could literally just have been anyone. So let me know your thoughts in this video, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye bye.